We are planning an election, Clay and Buck election party that we're going to be having in Clay's home state of Tennessee. We're celebrating. We called our shot, to be clear, like 6 months ago. We're like, it's going to be a good year for Republicans. And so we've put our money and our beer pong where our mouths are and are going to be throwing an election party in Nashville coming up here. Which is
hopefully it doesn't end up like Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential election party.
One of my biggest regrets to this day in politics is I was in the Flatiron district where I was living at the time, named for the Flatiron Building, which kind of looks like a Flatiron, which was originally supposed to be an uptown version of Wall Street and build a financial center right near what is now Madison Square Park. Very famous, iconic building, the Flatiron Building in New York. I live a couple blocks from it. And when the Trump victory happened, I was so busy calling and texting all of my friends and saying, oh, my God, this is amazing. And look what's like. I can't believe he did it. And because I voted for him, but I didn't think the first time around. I thought I was just, voting for, it was, because the 97% New York Times. Obviously, all of our political perception about polling changed after that. But Clay, I bring it up because the Hillary victory party was like a 15-minute walk to my west. And I wish I had gone just to see what that mausoleum of Hillary's hopes and dreams looked like at that time. I wish I could have gone to just go see all of the, apparently there were just tears everywhere. And, look, if you're an adult, you shouldn't cry after a presidential election. Sorry. So I had no sympathy on that one. I wish I had gone to check it out because it would have been instructive about what we're dealing with.
Oh, I mean, we're going to have a really fun night because I am convinced the more I look at this data, I predicted in January, Buck, I got two things wrong. I said the Packers would win the Super Bowl. Sorry, Packers fans. This was my New Year's prediction.
Who did win the Super Bowl?
The Rams. Rams beat the Bengals. Right. I wasn't expecting to get quizzed on the Super Bowl here. Rams beat the Bengals in the Super Bowl this past year. So I got that wrong. Our boy Aaron Rodgers, Mr. Anti-COVID shot, was not able to get the Packers across the finish line there. I predicted Georgia would win the national championship. Got that right. But I said 3 plus 3 on the Senate and plus 25 on the House. And I feel pretty good still about those. Now, people would say plus 3 on the Senate, you're being aggressive. I think if Republicans win a couple of close races, there will be a tide that will carry. And so it wouldn't stun me if we won in Nevada, Georgia, and let's say Arizona. Like, that wouldn't be shocking to me if all three of those. Because I think, and let me give you my theory here, Buck, I think Carrie Lake is going to win the governorship in Arizona. And I think she may win comfortably. Brian Kemp is going to, I believe, win comfortably in Georgia. I just don't know how many, and Lombardo, I think, is going to win in Nevada. I don't know how many split tickets we're going to really see. And so it wouldn't surprise me if we got all three of those states as the Democrat.
Who's going to win in Nevada?
Losing.
Nevada.
Lombardo, right? Isn't he the governor's candidate?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
So I think all three of those governors are going to win. And if all three governors win, if Lake, Lombardo, and Kemp win, I don't buy in necessarily to this idea that we're going to see a ton of split tickets. I just don't. I think Herschel Walker, I think that Blake Masters and Adam Laxalt, all three may win alongside of the governors.
There's definitely some shifting going on in the political narrative right now. And you're seeing it in these races, but also at a broader level. I think the Democrat January 6th BLM anti-Trump obsession is crashing against the rocks of reality. And one example of this comes via Tulsi Gabbard, who many of us are familiar with because she's on Tucker's show on a regular basis. And I always have to say this. She will disappoint conservatives on some things. She's not going to agree. She's not a conservative. So just understand that this doesn't mean, oh, great, she's on our team, but she's a person who served her country, who is ethical, who comes across as kind and open-minded toward the other side. And it is not possible to be those things and be a mainstream Democrat today. To be a mainstream Democrat today is to despise people on the right, to despise conservatives personally and person to person, to think they should be kicked off of social media, to think they should be fired from their jobs for not announcing their pronouns in their email signatures, to think they should be fired from their jobs for not getting a shot. That's what it means to be a Democrat. Tulsi Gabbard breaks from that, and she has officially broken now from the Democrat Party, and she was pulling no punches in this one.
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party. It's now under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms enshrined in our Constitution, and who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police, who protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents, and above all, are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war.
Clay, can I just say everything she said, and I want your take on it because we haven't talked about this before. We played it now. Everything she said is powerful because it is true. And the thing that stuck out to me the most is that she calls out the anti-white racism of the Democrat Party. Now, she has mixed heritage. She has her father is Samoan. So she has maybe a little more, there's a little more leeway to speak about some of these issues, even, on the left. The Democrat Party does have an anti-white racism at the heart of many of its policies, and many white Democrats use this actually to attack their opponents. That may seem strange, but you understand the strategy. It actually all holds up. I thought it was a brave statement she made.
I think she's right in everything that she said, and I agree with everything that she said in that clip. And really, to me, the Democrat Party at its base now is about identity politics, which in a woke context is white people are responsible for everything bad and are awful human beings. And really, I would argue the people destroying our country right now are the woke white community that should be our top opponents in the Republican Party. Because when you actually talk to Hispanic, Asian, and black voters, they reject many of the things that are being argued by the woke white community. The BLM movement was put in its high echelon mostly by woke white people who live very often in very wealthy communities and don't have to worry about needing police protection. I saw the other day where Stacey Abrams had spent $1.2 million on her own private security. Many of these Democrats that are arguing in favor of woke white policies, because let's be honest, that's what they are protected by their own security. And to me, it's woke politics, identity politics, and cancel culture. Those are the foundational elements of what the Democrats support now. If you say something they don't like, they don't argue with your opinion. What do, Buck? They go right to, you don't have the right to have your opinion, because they want to silence you. They want to take Alex Berenson, who we're going to talk to in 20 minutes, Dr. Joseph Ladapo from the Surgeon General of Florida. Science is about argument. Science is about debate. That's what the scientific method is. What Democrats have tried to do is, through their levers of power, both in the federal government and in the state government, and their connections with the big tech communities, they've tried to shut down anybody who puts out anything they disagree with.
There's something I always like to remind people of on that big tech issue, because as you said, they shut down. Joseph Ladapo, the Surgeon General of Florida, shares a study that's a real study, a real scientific study that says, look, the risk of myocarditis, which is a heart inflammation, it's a serious problem. Anything that inflames your heart, you're concerned about, can cause scarring, by the way, in the cardiac tissue. You might not know the complications for a long time afterwards, even if it feels like, even if it heals in the shorter term. The fact that they would shut that down is appalling, but not surprising anymore. And I would just note for everybody, big tech and the Democrat apparatus that has harnessed it for partisan purposes lied to get where it is for many years. Whether it's Facebook or Twitter, they said we have no politics. Use our platform. They said this is about free speech and freedom of information transferring. It's a transfer on the internet. We don't do the partisan game. You can trust us. Don't be evil. Remember Google's slogan?
Oh, yeah.
And then finally, when they became the sole players in these spaces, when they became effectively digital monopolists, what did they do? Crush the opposition like in Stalinist fashion. You say what we want you to on the core issues, on the most important debates, or you're gone.
What Joseph Ladapo shared, Buck, was data that suggests that if you are young and healthy, or your kids are young and healthy, they shouldn't get the COVID shot because the risk-reward balance isn't there for them. And they are trying to shut him down from being able to say that. This is the guy who's the Surgeon General of Florida. And, Buck, the analogy that I would make that I think everybody out there will understand, and I've been kind of hammering this home for a while, is China has built a great wall of the Chinese internet. Where, for instance, if you were to go in China right now and you try to search out Tiananmen Square, you can't even find it. If you put the date into the search engines in China, they won't return any evidence that Tiananmen Square ever occurred back in, I believe, 1989, the democracy protest. And seeking democracy. And most Americans, I think, would say, okay, well, that's wrong. The federal government, the large state government, should not be restricting what people can find on the internet. Well, we're not doing that because it would be a violation of the First Amendment. But our government is in agreement. The Joe Biden administration is in constant contact with big tech companies, and the big tech companies are censoring at the behest of the government. So we have created, effectively, our own government censorship. The difference is the government does it in China. Our big tech companies do it in America, and it's flat out wrong.